Alrighty guys, so the new Dragon Ball Fusion World Blazing Aura seems to be coming out May 10th, and it's looking like a really interesting release. So for those that don't know, Dragon Ball Fusion World is the new TCG from Bandai, which they've learned from One Piece. They've kind of now reshifted and re-simplified the game, and they've kind of repackaged the TCG and completely remarketed it as a new product, which I think is really cool. And look, I'm a massive fan of Dragon Ball, and I'm just a huge fan of Fusion World, and I think the TCG is looking fantastic. A lot of people have been asking me, hey Phil, why are you making content about Dragon Ball Fusion World? You know, we really like the Pokemon content, but just to be honest, guys, like I think keeping a channel with variety is important, and I think talking about different collectors is really good, and especially if you are investing in Pokemon, I think it's really good and healthy to understand how other trading cards are performing so you can measure it against Pokemon. I think just going in one trading card or just looking at it in one dimensional isn't always good, and I think knowing different areas and what other TCGs are doing, you know, it's not just Fusion World, you know, you got Lorcana at the moment as well, you got One Piece, you know, you got Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh! There are other trading cards in the game, and it's just important to know, to see what other competitors are doing. But in terms of Fusion World and Blazing Aura in particular, in this video, I really want to go over some of the artworks. I want to talk about it as a collectible, as an investment. And, you know, this is more for the collector. So if you are a player, I'm going to be talking this more as through a collector's lens for this. So now, another thing with Blazing Aura, what's really cool is you do open the packs, but what's really interesting about it is when you open the packs, they do have a digital code card, which is able to use with their new client that they have released. And I really like this as well. So it's really cool. So, you know, there is added benefits to opening the packs. So even if you are collecting this and you are not playing the digital client, and you open, say, 1 or 2 booster boxes and you're not going to be playing it, you know, definitely keep onto your code cards, because there are people that are buying those, and honestly, they're much more expensive than Pokemon code cards. You know, a lot of people really want to get cards for the client. So there's a real good opportunity there as well. If you're not playing the digital client, at least you can kind of offset some of those code cards. The first thing that we're looking at is Fusion World search terms. So Fusion World, as you can see here, I'm just on the past 90 days for worldwide, and we can see the boom of the most highest search volume was February 29th, and that's when Awakened Pulse was released. And a lot of people were kind of thinking how it was going to go, and when Awakened Pulse released, it kind of like just blindsided everyone because no one could get product. So I don't know if you were looking at getting some Awakened Pulse product, but once it released, you couldn't get it, and now Bandai is just moving on to their next sets. Thankfully, Blazing Aura, you should be able to get some product at the moment, but you can see that the interest for Fusion World, right now we're just a little bit before Blazing Aura is about to be released, and Fusion World search volume is back to what it was before the boom of Awakened Pulse. But I want to go through some of the cards and talk about some of the cards. So there are 140 cards in the set, and from what we can see here, there are 12 super rares, 2 secret rares, and 19 alternative arts. And I want to go through some of those cards and look at some of the artworks and talk about which cards I think are the ones to look out for, which ones I think are going to really perform well. So looking at this, there is the Son Gohan Adolescence. So this is one of the cool cards. It is a super rare alternate art. And look, it's looking really cool. And you know, I like the way what they do really good at Dragon Ball cards is they know how to infuse that neon kind of Saiyan vibe when they go. So they do a really good job, and the card quality is fantastic. One thing a lot of people don't give credit to the Dragon Ball TCG, and even before Fusion World, is their card stock and print quality. They actually have a very high level of detail, and I actually love collecting Dragon Ball cards because they are just printed so well. They really refine the craft of their artworks and their cards. The card stock is fantastic, and they grade really well as well. And I think it's a lot of people don't give it credit for that. So, you know, they do look after, and obviously like when you look at Pokemon have such a more demand, so they sometimes have to sacrifice print quality to meet demand. Moving on to this alternate art, Bulma. I think this is going to be a real standout of the set. I think Bulma is loved by fans across Dragon Ball. I think she's been there since the OG. She's been there since the first episode of Dragon Ball back in the 80s. She's a staple in the series, and of course, you know, having an alternate art of Bulma is really awesome. And look, I think it's going to be a really interesting card, one to look out for. I'm not sure how high the price will go, but I definitely think this is one of the cards to be on the lookout for. Moving on to the Goku card. Now, this is a Super Saiyan Blue. Looking really cool. It is an alternate art, but it is a super rare as well. So not in the highest tier of rarity. But yeah, no, it's an interesting card. And I think it really seems that they actually use the full frame of the card to show the power up. It's not just isolated to you can see it. Like you can see how the spillage of Goku's kind of electricity and the power up goes around the corners of the card. I really like that because it makes it immersive. It makes it feel like, you know, when you get the card and you see it, they really use the full frame of the card well. So that's really cool. Moving on, and this is actually one of the cards I'm most excited for, is this Cell card. I love it, man. I love the positioning. I love the stance. And, you know, Cell is such a, like, just as a character and a villain, he's so cocky, so uptight, so just he holds his ground. And I think that's a really good representation of him. I'm really looking out for this card. It is a super rare, so it's not the hardest card to pull. But this is one I am definitely looking out for. And personally, this is my chase for the set. I really want this card. I'm definitely going to be getting this one in my collection just because I love it and I love Cell as a villain as well. So we have the Vegito here. Not exactly anything special, I think, this card. I think they could have done more. One of the criticisms with some of the artwork, sometimes I feel like it's just characters in a portrait. You know, Pokemon, when they do their illustration rares, particularly lately, they really immerse a character or a Pokemon in its environment. They'll, you know, really pull it out. I think that they could do more with maybe putting battle scenes or showing something where you see it. It sometimes seems like you just get a character portrait. This is kind of an example of that. I think they could have done a little bit more with Vegito here. Nonetheless, if you do pull the card, it will be slightly valuable. So it's still a valuable card. But definitely, I think the artwork is a little bit muted, a little bit boring for this one. But moving on to the next one. So this is the alternate art of that Vegito. This one is really cool. So this one I love. So you got the power up and you can see Goku and Vegeta behind him. Fantastic. And this is a really good, I love the composition of it. Love how he's centered, power up, and you can see obviously the fusion and, you know, who he's fused from. This one is another one to look out for. I think it's a fantastic card. I do dare say that this one will be valuable, given the fact that the pull rates are quite difficult for this. And not only that, it is Vegito, which is such a loved character within Dragon Ball. People are just such a fan of him. And, you know, this is, you know, the alternate art as well. So it's going to be one of the harder cards to pull. And as well, this one, which I'm really liking. This is a really cool card. Like I said, still on that portrait vibe, but at least it's done right. Again, they're using the full frame, the colors, and I can't imagine what this card's going to look like when it's pulled. I can just look at it, just looking at the photos of this card, I can tell, just knowing Dragon Ball cards when you get them and how well they are done. The colors of this with the golds and the purples and how it's going to contrast, it's going to look like a real prize card. And I think this one is another one that's going to be really expensive and one to look out for. The main card and the one that everyone is kind of, this is the chase card of the set, which is going to be super expensive. And, you know, I'm a bit worried to know the price of, but it's going to be this Vegeta alternative art secret rare. This is going to be the chase of the chase, if you will. I think this one's going to be another expensive card. So if you do get Blazing Aura and you do pull this card, you know you have just pulled dynamite. You have literally pulled the chase of the chase. And, you know, these are obviously the collector. People aren't going to really be playing with these cards in their deck. You have lower tiers of these cards if you want to use it. These are more for the real collector scene. But no, this is the chase of the set, and like I said, I do like how it looks, and I think it's going to be a really well-performing card. Moving on, I think Blazing Aura is looking good. I think it is a step up from Awakened Pulse. I do like the Frieza. It looks like it's a Vegito-themed set. Like I said, my favorite cards are the Cell and the Vegito alternative art. I'm going to be looking out for those. You know, if you do pull them, let me know. Maybe I will buy them, but I'm looking for those in a PSA 10. But look, I think the set is currently available in Australia anyway. I'm not sure worldwide. I think it's going to be interesting to see how this set goes and the reprints, because Bandai do have weird ways they reprint. They're not too generous with that. So what they do is they release, and this is just looking at one piece, they usually release, they'll maybe have a few reprints, but then they really just curb it off and they go, nah, next set, we're moving on to the next set. And I think they do that in a way to increase demand, increase some sort of scarcity. not sure that they are very focused, which is kind of weird because they should be they're focusing on growing the game. So you'd think they would really want product available. So they're in this weird phase that they're doing it. But overall, I think that this is an interesting TCG to go into, and I'm really excited for this set. I will be opening a few of these packs, and I really hope to pull some of the chase. But, you know, I'm overall thinking with these TCGs, the market is becoming more competitive. You know, you do have Pokemon who's running the show. You do have One Piece who's kind of also now, you know, competing with Pokemon in their own way. It's not as big of a market, but, you know, it's got a massive fan base. The prices of cards are going crazy. You've now got Fusion World coming in. The question really comes is Fusion World a good investment? Well, thankfully, I do answer that question in this video here, where I talk about the 7 reasons why I believe Fusion World is a fantastic investment. I go over Bandai's history, and I talk about how they learnt from One Piece and use it to their success, and they're using it to their advantage to market Fusion World. Check that video out, guys, if that topic interests you, and I'll see you there.